Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Horseheads Middle School Intermediate School for our June 18th regular business meeting. Would you please stand and join me in honoring America by reciting the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, I need a motion to adjourn to a recess session so the board can conduct its annual self-evaluation. Can I have a motion, please?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, we will adjourn to recess and be back at 6 o'clock. All right, good evening, everyone. We are returning from a recess session and now returning to the public portion of our board meeting. And the first item on our agenda is approval of the public minutes. And we had 3 sets of minutes that need to be approved, 2.01 through 2.03. Can I have a motion, please?
Second.
Curiosities, discussion, comments?
I'll be voting no on 2.1 and 2.2.
I'll be voting no on those as well.
Right. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I am told that we do not have any individuals from the community tonight that wish to speak, so we will move to section 4, and the student representative has other commitments tonight, so now we will go to section 5, and we will start with the report from the superintendent.
First, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, members of the Board of Education, those individuals that are out there in TV land as well. I want to thank the whole community. I know it's been a difficult time during the past month with the first budget vote and the second budget vote, but overwhelmingly the board's budget that they prepared the second time was passed at over 66%. It's the highest of the 3 budgets that were out there in approval. So I want to thank our community for coming out, participating one way or another, but our budget has been passed and we're moving into graduation time as well as into the summer and starting to prepare for the next year. With preparing for the next year, you'll see on the board minutes under policy under first read is the internet devices ban, which I'm sure every student out there is happy that we got to talk about, but they are receiving a survey today to start giving us some of their thoughts over the next couple of weeks, as well as parents received one today, as well as the staff did. So we'd encourage people to please understand that we're looking for some of their information, more so probably on the regulations that the administration is going to have to develop and how we can best work together, because it is the law of the land. We have no choice. And yet the policy is pretty much the sample from our lawyers that falls in line as best possible at this point. So the board will have some of that discussion tonight. So I just want to let you know we are in full compliance with it, and we may need an extra policy meeting somewhere around next Thursday or next Friday, just so that we can prepare for the upcoming organizational and next board meeting for any second reading, so that we can comply with the August 1st deadline. However, I do know that the state is not going to slap our hands if we by chance were off by a meeting from the August 1st deadline. I don't think they have the workforce to monitor it, but we want to try to do in good faith and make sure at least we have to start, because regulations cannot even start to begin until after the policy is finalized. So that will be up under policies first reading. There is a GST BOCES board vacancy at this point. However, because we already have a representative, they have chosen to take an officer, I think from the Bradford board, that was a former BOCES board member, but we are obligated to give you that notification in case you want me to sort of say, well, we may want somebody else on. But I don't see many people lining up for that position because they could have run as the position was able to be run for, but there was only one candidate who wanted to put it. It's an important time of graduation. Graduation date procedure, as you know, in the past several years until we have an indoor venue, is an outdoor graduation on our district field. It starts right now. We are starting to get into the window on Wednesday of next week. It's at 6 p.m. Please be aware that we could always move it back to 6:30 or so. We try to give as much information on that. It is at the stadium. There will be our wonderful maintenance facilities assisting those that need assistance getting into the stadium from various parking spots. But if weather is contingent on that day, we try to make an obvious call by Tuesday. If it's sort of sketchy, we may hold a call all the way up until Wednesday afternoon and try to indicate whether or not we're leaning one way or another. Right now, it does look good for Wednesday, although it will be very toasty out. So just like for our school days on Monday and Tuesday, we encourage people to wear lighter clothing, lighter colored clothing, make sure there are plenty of fluids, make sure you're sending students with a lot of hydration, as well as we have some field days and outdoors. And the good part is, many of our buildings right now do have some type of form of climate control, with Center Street and Gardner Road, I think, having a good deal of it, as well as the high school. Unfortunately, the intermediate and middle school would be in the next project if it's considered by the community, and Ridge Road is obviously just at the point where we're going to start getting some for the current project. So those are some of the things, and not all of our elementaries that have big flat rooms have climate control. So we want to be very aware of it, but Wednesday is the first night of graduation. If it rains and we cancel, we just go to the next night, Thursday night. Again, we'll make that call Wednesday night or Thursday afternoon. If it's still weather and we have to make the call, then it will go to Friday. If it's still weather, we go to Saturday. But on Saturday, we will give a time, and it is raining or shine. We will have to adjust if there's lightning. So please understand, we try to do it best. In the 4 years I think we've been doing it, we've only had to move off Wednesday one night, and it was Thursday night. So please pay attention, please pay attention. Joe Barris, who I always blame the night on every year, even though I know I can't blame him and go meet with him right now, but he is doing his best to try to get us a perfect night for our graduating class of 2025. Summer construction is in full swing. It's going to really take off at the end of next week. We've asked everybody to bear with us, even our staff, as multiple buildings, multiple rooms, multiple staff have to be moved, and we can't just do it in a day. We need the next 2 weeks to try to do it so that everybody can move forward. Just so that you know, the high school is almost 3 weeks, possibly 4 weeks ahead of schedule. Ridge Road is absolutely on time, and once they can get in, they feel that they will be able to speed up the schedule. All of this is hopefully to give next summer more chance for people to have more time in the buildings if possible. But we'll keep our fingers crossed. We are starting to plan for a community open house or a walk-in in September, right before our open house for our students at the high school, Gardner Road, and Big Flats, because those construction areas have been regularly updated, and we want to invite anybody out. More information will be out. We'll also put it out to local senior homes as well as our community, and try to advertise that so people can see the return on investment, as it really has made a difference in the lives of students and their opportunities. I already announced that, so I'll need the board to talk about cell phone in an extra policy meeting just real quick by the end of the night so that we can set that out. And then also, I had talked at the last meeting about opening times. And I didn't really hear anything back from the board at that point. The budget has passed, It is not in the budget, but we announced the times when we're getting ready to have our principals communicate that out to the new students coming to their buildings. But I would like to see if the board is okay with me using whatever resources I can to try to make sure that I have at least 20 minutes to maybe up to probably 40 to 50 minutes for the K through 4s to try to, at least for this first year, assist as many parents as possible, maybe like from 7:50 to 8:10, it has to be for those people that have, how would you say, we would have to figure out the mechanism, but they must be at work, they have no other alternative, and they have documentation that they can give to us, that we first and foremost take care of those. Those other individuals would show up 20 to 25 minutes before school, which is the normal time, and get through this year with the understanding that next year schools open 20 minutes before the actual start. Any thoughts from the board members on that?
I'm in favor of that. I think, whatever we can do to ease the transition over this next year to be able to help parents, I think would be very helpful. Again, with the understanding that it's not a long-term assist, but to be able to give the families additional time to figure out different alternatives. So I'm definitely in favor of it if we can make it work.
Dan?
I agree with what Christine said. If you're not sure, that's fine, but would this be done through, say, having, have a staff member work overtime or some other mechanism?
We will have to have individuals on staff volunteer to come in and work extra time, which I do believe there are people going to do that and considering it. But because of some contracts, it will require extra overtime, but I think it's a small price to pay to try to help everybody out throughout this year. And this is the other thing. If, say, we're doing it at the beginning of the year, there's only 1 or 2 kids per building, and sooner or later they take care of it, we'll draw it back once we know people have been able to adjust. But that's what we said last time, that's the only thing keeping us from finalizing all the time.
Yeah, and the reason I asked was just to make sure that we would be appropriately compensating anyone who would be willing to do that. But I'm certainly supportive of it, and it's worth the funds it would take to do it.
Aaron?
Any possibility of a flex time conversation with those staff members?
Those are all possibilities, yes.
Because that's no dollars.
Yeah, the hard part is don't have the maximum number of people that might be available. So I think one way or another, we've estimated that we're going to have to carry some costs.
And then just how would you handle that with each individual teacher in the unions? Would you do like an MOU? How would you?
A lot of times it's probably not going to be the instructional staff. It will most likely be our teaching assistants, monitors, and so forth.
So?
You should.
Let me turn mine on.
Okay, I just have a concern with the starting times. I know the board approved the, high school back in, I don't know, September, October, I forgot to go back and look at the minutes, but, I think these times are really early. And, I have a concern for having these early times for grade levels 5 through 12, when high schoolers have, I know people say they'll get up regardless, but I know I just really struggle with the times that are in place for these kids for next year. I think it's too early. I feel like their parents who go to work at 7 a.m. and work till 3. It's going to be a long day. And then for the kindergartners or whatever, it's just a really, really long day. And I have concerns about the times and how are these kids going to keep up with this on a daily schedule. And like for the middle school, maybe got a 2:05, and they're in a sport, would have been just have concerns about the way the start times are. And I've heard that in the community too. I'm not saying just me personally, but what I hear from parents, especially, single parents who have to get their kids to school. I'm just not convinced that these are a great start times for them.
But would you, I guess my question is, would you be okay with us trying to assist with what we've got, those times are there, trying to assist as many families as we can?
Oh, yeah, I would be okay with that, Tom. I just never gave another opinion about this.
Yeah, no problem.
Yeah,
Thank you.
did that before.
Julie?
I would agree, I'd be okay with it. I would just caution us that once we put something in place, and we say it's first year, it's always hard to pull it back. So I would just caution us that it might end up being something more permanent, or we may need to look at that down the road. I'm for the flex time too, if that's an option, because I think that's a great avenue to go, but, it's always hard to take something away that we make convenient.
Everything that we post is going to have the warning on it, just so that they know, because unfortunately our budget is still our budget, and it is not something that we can just be convenient on, unfortunately. We'd love to be, but everything unfortunately does have a potential cost. So
We want to try to help while we can and work while we can so people can adjust. But I'll make sure that that's clear.
Katrina?
I think it would be helpful to get like a dollar amount and to understand what it would cost. Because when you ask us to give an opinion on it without having to know, okay, is this going to be 10,000, 20,000, 30,000? We saw what those numbers are in different budget lines. So you don't know, like I feel right now, we're making a blind decision and we don't know what we're going to be trading off for in the future with this decision. I want to be able to help people and make sure that they have the transition times, but I don't know this cost, and I feel like it's really important to be able to have that information before being asked to make a decision. So you're saying that you want to try to open the buildings 40 minutes in advance. So I just want to be clear, you are saying next year you would open the building at 8:20, but this year you're going to try to have it open at 8 a.m.? Or are you trying to have the elementary school building open before 8 a.m.?
I'm trying to have the elementary buildings open around 7:50.
Around 7:50 a.m. And then what are you trying to do for start times for the intermediate? Is that going to be 7 a.m. or are you trying to do that
Roughly 6:50 to 7.
6:50 to 7? Okay, so the kids, the starting bell would be at 7:20. So then we're saying and then middle school, do you have to have, would you have to have teacher assistants or staff available for that to also be open ahead of time?
Not as much as you go up in the grade levels, but there could be potential, but that's covered by contract already.
So mostly you're looking at additional staff in K through 4 and 5, 6, or just K through 4?
Just a second. It's about $30,000. 2 extra people in the morning, and that's at full overtime if we need full overtime.
And then how many students would be benefiting from this
I
potentially?
have no clue, it depends on the parents, that's the problem.
So you're saying that this would be able to benefit 100 kids or 50 kids?
It should only benefit the students that require that supervision because their parents are required to be at their job or employment and it's documented.
So,
We can't be everything to everybody.
so what you're saying is not, so if my job doesn't require me to go in earlier, then I wouldn't be able to drop my kid off earlier. Is that
That's
what you're
most
saying?
likely the way we're looking at it, yes.
Okay, so then what would be the drop-off point in time for the parents that are not required?
20 minutes before the actual start time, like it currently is.
Okay, so they would have 20 minutes, and then the people, but you don't know exactly how many kids would be able to sign up for the $30,000?
No, the 30,000 is just a range of what I'm estimating at full overtime. It could be less, it could be a little bit more. I doubt it's going to be as much just because of the flex time and so forth. I'm taking the worst case scenario.
Okay, but, so yeah, I'm curious about how many kids
There's no way to know until parents get the opportunity to sign up.
to sign up.
Yeah, because officially, we could just say the door's open 20 minutes and that's it. We're trying not to do that, and for what I'm hearing, the board would like to do that as best we can.
Well, what I'm trying to get to is, okay, if you say like, yes, we're gonna do this, but then you find out that, you know, you're only allowed to let 40 people sign up, because that's the max capacity that you're allowed for the people who can sign up ahead of time. If there was some sort of cutoff.
Well, that would be like per building.
Right.
40, that
But
means
then if
that's
we have-
120 kids.
But if we had an overwhelming, like a number higher than that, of parents who wanted to, or who needed that
It's
available
not-
to them.
If I can correct you, it's not if they want to, it's if they must, and they have the documentation. In other words, we're not opening these schools for 45 minutes for parents just to drop off their kids. It's not a convenience, it's because it's needed necessity.
I feel like, well,
Just let me interrupt. I just want to make you aware you have 1 minute left. My clock is in here. I'm going to keep it.
okay, I just feel like this could, I feel like this could have problems with
Well-
parents saying, these people are dropping their kid off early, now why can't I drop my kid off early because the lines are too long?
I agree.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely agree. That's why we have to
$30,000,
do
I
it.
want to help people, but it's hard for me to just say yes right now, because $30,000 is a lot of money, and if it's gonna turn into chaos, then I don't believe that that's necessarily money well spent.
I understand. That's why I'm asking the board, what would you like to do?
Liz?
I would be in favor of it, but I do have a question. During those 45 minutes, what are the kiddos doing?
They will basically be going to the cafeteria or library, depending on how we set it up. And they will have options of being able to start with their breakfast early, so that when they get in the classroom, they're already prepared. But it's basically, we're supervising them for that time. I do not know if people will want their kids sitting for 40 minutes either. So we've heard that people are concerned, but we also have heard people say, I'm going to figure it out. And, you know, best judgment, we just want to be able to address people that really need it.
So,
So is there still
Is there still going to be latchkey in these programs, in these buildings too?
There will still also be our Kids World program too. So some of the parents are already reaching out there. It depends on their scale as well, because we also don't want to infringe into their business as well, because they provide a great service for our community.
But they can only take so many.
It depends. If they know they have more, they try to get more staff.
Okay, thank you.
We're just looking at it like a last resort option for those.
So now understanding the cost of the 30,000, I want to help families as well, but I'm just not sure that it's a good use of our resources without knowing exactly how many kids are going to be in the program. You know, I'd be more open to the flex scheduling or something along those lines, but to spend additional money on something without knowing exactly how many kids are going to be impacted, I don't think I'd actually afford that.
And then my other concern with this is that saying that like the drop-off time is going to be 20 minutes beforehand. I'm concerned about congestion and traffic and all of that actually being able to get through the line ahead of time.
That's why we have a transportation system, and I encourage everybody to start using it. We cannot anticipate, or how we just say, be able to address individual conveniences and travel. It is what it is. Our buses are there, and our buses have no problem.
Okay, so right, and I mean, I'm just saying, like, right now, for the elementary schools, at what time are they allowed to drop off in the mornings?
20 minutes before.
For all kids, it's 20 minutes before?
But I'm thinking for next year.
No, I'm
This
thinking
year,
of right now.
I think 8:40, we have opened up at 8 o'clock, but that's very minimal people there to cover. Because the teachers are not required to cover.
So,
It's currently 7:40, and they're allowed in the building.
Yeah, so it's 20, they're allowed in the building, so it's 20 minutes. Yes.
so they can get dropped off at 7:40, and the doors are open.
They can't come into the building. They can come in, sorry, the entrance, right? They go to the cafeteria, they go to the loot spots before being let into the building at 8 o'clock.
We're extending it by about 10 minutes.
20 minutes, same concept, 20 minutes before.
Okay, so what you're saying though is that is what we are not going to be able to have available unless we pay this $30,000.
No, you're confusing. It's not unless we pay. It's that we would pay something. We estimate that it would be no more than 30. But of course, we're an administrative team. We try to minimize the potential impact. It could be 2 kids at each school. I may only need 1. Immediately, I've cut it in half. I mean, that's the whole thing. I'm just giving you the worst case scenario that I can think of with 2 people, full overtime every single day, no flexible schedule. And this helps our community during the transition, and that it is time bound. It might only be for the first half of the year. It might be that we see that there's 2 or 3 families, and our administration, our social workers try to figure out how to best support them so that they can change that. It might be that they've never availed themselves of transportation because they're afraid of it, and that we help them not be afraid of it. I mean, there's all kinds of avenues there, but we have been heavily convenient for everybody over probably decades and many years.
Okay, I'm really sorry, I just really want to make sure that I'm clear on this, because I think that maybe it would have been helpful to see like last year's, like what we're currently doing compared to how it's shifting, so I can like see the numbers that way. I'm trying to get it in my head, but, okay, so right now, the doors you can drop off at 7:40, and the bell rings at 8:20, right now.
And the doors open at 8 o'clock.
So, but for next year, if we were not doing the extra, it would only be at 8:20 that the doors would open.
Right, and we were going to cover in the last slide from 8 to 8:20. I think an extra 10 minutes is appropriate to try to help people get here a little early and get to their employment.
Okay, but so then how are we doing it this year without having to pay for it?
A lot of people avail themselves of Kids World.
So then, because I guess I'm just confused, like if we are able to do it now and we're just shifting the times, why would we not be able to do it?
Go ahead, Tony. Please.
So currently, yes, this year's model is looking to be replicated next year. And that, at the bare minimum, 20 minutes prior to the student being able to go into their classroom, they're allowed into the building. So that's the bare minimum, that's what this original is establishing. You have a longer school day next year. So those people that are currently covering that 20 minutes before the school day have a longer day. So to add extra time now onto a longer school day, as Tom was acknowledging, it would require more time. The question on the table is, we can open up at 8:25, but there was concerns that that was not Should we open up earlier than we currently do in the system? So say it's 7:40 this year, what's on the table is it for this year, we'd be opened up at 7:20. Do we open up earlier to accommodate? It would cost more because we're extending the day next year. So our coverage this year is within the contractual. We do have people that will do this day and they'll work the hours and they won't have to accrue overtime because they're still within the 70 hours of, by the contract. Next year, school day lengthens, would be fine at 8:25, but if you want to add more time now, there's a cost that would come to it. Does that make sense?
Okay, this might be a silly question, but if we didn't extend the school day, essentially will you save that money?
Well, then we'd run into not receiving.
Actually, we would not receive aid in about $50,000 per building a day. Because we were waived for the past 4 years because our day is absolutely one of the shortest in educational time for the kids that did not meet necessarily the minimum number of hours. That's the problem. That's why the contract is negotiated. That's why there's a shift. That's all been explained to the community. We haven't really had many questions about it. That is a contractual requirement now.
Okay, I feel like we should, I thought that you just had to have 180 days and 900 hours.
We are in compliance starting next year with New York State's minimum days and hours. Beforehand, for the past 4 years, we've been getting credited, even if we went under by the state, which we were, primarily at the K through 4 buildings. The contract was negotiated, we had a mutual agreement, and that has been put into our budget for this year because that's when it was scheduled. And we are in full compliance now that we will not have a problem with days or minutes as required by New York State Education Department.
So I feel like we're getting too into the details. I mean, I think this is more of an operational thing in the district, on how the district chooses to staff and accommodate, the community. And I think we're going above and beyond to be able to offer this service to our community members who need it. Obviously, I don't think the administrative team would have even offered this if they didn't think that they can work it into what our current boundaries are on our budget. And if we get an overwhelming response, then we might not be able to do it for a whole year. If it's gonna end up costing us a lot more. So, I mean, I think, you know, being able to give our opinions on it, but at the end of the day, this is an operational decision.
No, I just need to make sure the board has support, otherwise it's just going to be 20 minutes before, and that's what it is. So, and I think at least 7 of 9, 7 of 8, I don't think you waived. Or 6 of 9.
Aaron?
I think this is a very kind gesture to share out to our parents. I really do. I think this is something that we have listened. People have come to you with feedback. There has been concern from some people about how they were going to manage this time-wise and financially. And I feel like this is a really kind, generous offering for our parents that truly may need this financially. So I am 100% on board. I think we can be creative with how we, are able to pay people who are going to staff it, whether it is, I'm going to say it again, flex time, if they're open to that, that's a possibility. But I think we can be creative. I think that's what we do best as a district. And I think it is a great gesture to do for our parents, even if, and I will caution this, I think we need to revisit it, we need to evaluate it. Is it being, do we have too many students? Do we really need to have 2, 3, 4 staff members where one could be sufficient, right? And that's for you guys to decide what the staffing needs be. But I think we continue to look at it, evaluate it, see what the need is, and see how we can address it. We can be creative.
Yeah, I think we'll have a better idea come the end of September.
I do too. Once this is put out there and you're able to get those numbers and we're able to put a true dollar amount on it, then maybe we can talk about length of time. Maybe that's something that is the,
Oh, mine probably cutting yours off.
sorry, maybe, maybe the length of time that this will be for is something that could be, talked about. We could say at a minimum X, potentially Y, right?
I'll sit there and say, we'll do a review and we'll at least do it for the first semester.
Yeah.
And if anything, we have to get through winter, but at least to try to give people the ability to see, find out, and see where the real issues are, which will bring down the cost no matter what. I know that. It's just that I was asked for a cost, so I wanted to give a rough cost as soon as
No,
possible.
I think that's very fair. A minimum, potential maximum. Just as long as it's communicated prior. I mean, the communication is key.
And that's what this is. Tomorrow we start that process to try to start to get.
Mary Ann?
I agree with what Aaron has said. I think it's a nice gesture on the part of the district to look into providing this. And I truly understand that specific decisions cannot be made until the numbers are solidified.
I'm 100% in support of it. I think it's a wonderful gesture to the community, and whatever the appropriate compensation is, that's what we have to pay to help the community out.
Anyone else? 'Cause I think I at least have some direction. I appreciate this discussion. We're going to try to help our community as they helped us, especially this past week. Yep.
On your highlighted thing, I just wanted to say that, it says the building opens at 8 a.m., and that would be the drop-off time, but then it says, documented requirement, for an 8 a.m. short time.
That is only for your eyes at this point. It's so that you could understand. I'm going to have to adjust that and get it into the final set.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to put something up and then have to change it, so I wanted you to see it if you had questions. And that way now I can change it and then I'll put it out.
That was my question.
Okay? Ladies and gentlemen, my second to last thing before I introduce a very patient person is the fact that we had outstanding accomplishments this past weekend. In the area of track and field, we had wonderful kids go up and compete at the state levels and move on and through it. They were coming back in the rain at the same time. The girls team ended up winning their semifinals and going to the state championship, as well as the boys team winning theirs and going to state championship the next day, and everybody having to change with rain and stuff. But I had a wonderful time. I was sitting next to the Buffalo Bills coach for 2 straight days, Sean McDermott, because ultimately our girls did play Orchard Park in the end, and we did fall 3-1. But I think everybody had a good time because he was there too, even though I know there was sadness. The girls did an outstanding job and really had a very good tournament. And it's always a matter, as our own coach here knows, it depends what day, and how that goes through. And then what was really nice is they were able, their game got over, they started at the same time, their game got over, and the boys' games went into extra innings, so they were able to show up, support the boys, even though they went through their second place medal, runner-up state champions. And they were able to get there for the boys, and they were able to see a very dynamic end to a game, which our own Julie Monahan's son had the walk-off fielder's choice hit to the shortstop, which threw over. The boys stepped off the base. They scored there.
I never knew Jeff Lemoncelli could run so fast and hop so high. But he was running, his son was running, the kids were jumping on everybody. This is like my 4th or 5th different team state championship, and it's always exciting when you see the work and you see the nerves and you see that, and you see the parents up there that are worse than the kids at the nerves and the bungles and the jumps, and boy, you don't want to be an umpire when you make them mad. But what happened is those kids came off, they handled it with style and grace, they got their awards, we even got it so that the girls were pictured right behind the boys, so that both teams were sort of immortalized with their final state picture, because it's very rare that 2 teams in the same sport even make it to the state championship, let alone make it to the finals. So commend them. I know the seniors are excited, they're ready for graduation and everything. And I want to hats off to everybody making it bus garage, the athletic department, the kids, the parents, the supporters. But there are a lot of great things going on here, and it's because of the investment that the community has made, the board, the determination, the participation. We have one of the best programs, I think, out there, and I don't want to see it go. And I think we are getting stronger, and I appreciate the community pushing this budget through, even though with the defeat before. That there are great things to come, and I appreciate the board trying to take care of the community as well with their guidance. And going into next year, we have a yearbook, so if board members would like one, I have some, please get to me or Terry. We do that as a courtesy because you don't get much when you're here, but this is a great way to honor this year in whole. And we also have our plaque that represents our student representative that will go back up in the high school with Mia's name on it. And as such, Mia's not here. I know Warren's going to probably address her and get her something at graduation. We'll see her there. And to kick off next year, somebody that impressed us that wanted to maybe throw their hat in the ring is sitting right here. Her name is Serenity Jefferson. She's a wonderful student, junior, who's going to be a senior in the class of 2026. This is our nomination for student representative.
Hey guys, I'm Serenity.
Would you like to say anything, Serenity? Just her time, go ahead. I know she can speak on her feet with no problem. She can tumble too. I believe you're also a sectional champion, right?
Yes, for fall.
Right. I turned mine on, so yours should work now. It gets easier when you're up here, right? Tony,
Okay.
Dave.
Hi everyone, I'm Serenity Jefferson. I first moved to Horseheads when I was in 8th grade, so it was a bit of a transition. Obviously, I grew up in a different town. I grew up in Elmira, so getting to know a different school when you're a little bit, I don't know, not like switch stage, it's the second year of middle school and there's only 2. So it was very different for me. I was a little bit nervous going into a new school, growing up in Elmira, it's 2 different environments, different teachers, different friends, so I was scared to leave a lot behind. But coming to Horseheads, it was very welcoming, so I'm so excited to be a part of something a little bit bigger, as more than just a student, but also a student representative, and representing a whole student body that has been so welcoming to me, so this is very exciting. I'm very honored to be here today and be here through the 2025-2026 school year, so thank you again.
Well, Serenity, you're welcome to stay, but I know tomorrow's Juneteenth, and it's a day off for everybody. So if you want, you're welcome to stay and join us and stay for a while, and you're also welcome to exit for your own time too.
I'm gonna leave you guys today. Thank you.
No problem, thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
So ladies and gentlemen, that's my report. Sorry it took so long with some things, but we had to get through. And we are officially in hiring season now. All right.
So we'll move to section 6, finance items for action, and initially we will have a report from the audit committee.
Okay, we met last week on June 11th. We had Julie Kephart there from BOCES going through internal audit information, and then Tom Zuber was there for external audit. So Tom went through just the review of the audit approach and responsibilities. He did give an update just on his review of the reserves, and we say this all the time that we really need to keep our eye on the fund balance. We have needed to use our reserves to help with the budget the past couple of years. There aren't any major concerns right now, but we do need to continue to monitor. Julie Kephart, so if you remember back in February, Julie, we had the internal audit risk assessment update, and at that time, we did not have the corrective action plan completed. So we did not review that audit again because we did it in February, and we also had it on board docs in the February meeting. But we did go through the corrective action plan, and all items have been completed or are on track for completion, and the details on that corrective action plan are in board docs. Julie then went through the internal audit health benefits, which is what we had asked her to do back in February, to do that focused audit on our health benefits. Overall, it was a good audit. She did find a few areas that can be that can be enhanced in the areas of deductions, dependent documentation, and stop loss insurance. And all of those items are also covered on the corrective action plan, which is in board docs for you to review in more detail. So we went through all of that information from Julie, and then Katie and Caitlin went through that corrective action plan. And that was our audit committee.
Thank you. And moving along, I need a motion for 6.03. All right, I'll start again. I need a motion for 6.03 through 6.42.
So moved. Second.
Curiosities, discussion, comments? Katrina?
Yeah, I have some questions on the different RFP awards, 6.25 through 6.30. So do we, when we're seeking these, did we put this out there to get bids from other people to see who would be competitive with these positions?
If I speak on all of them, and Ann, you can correct me, we did initially put them out. They're 5-year RFPs. These, I believe, are all extensions of the original ones that we did for favorability of the rates and moving forward for, I think, the last 2 years. What else? But
It was 3, and this is the addition.
this is the additional 2.
For a total.
Yeah.
Okay.
So continuations.
Okay, so, and then my question, because I was reading the legal one, specifically the 6.28, and then it had said that they had the rates from the previous one. The only contract that I could find to see what their retainers were was the one from 2020 to 2022. Because they didn't give us the full detail of the services provided. They had said like the updated fees, which are increasing slightly. So that's why I was wondering if we had shopped around to see price point wise, if there's other places that are cheaper. I understand working with people that you're familiar with and going through that, but I just am wondering, if we look for better deals. I'm not saying that this is a bad deal, because this could very well be the best deal, but the options.
That is what the RFP process is. At this time, we're recommending this goes forward for the additional 2 years. They've been a long-standing firm, like you said, but they also merged into one of the best law firms in Central New York, where before we only had access for roughly three 3 attorneys because 2 leave had retired. Now we have access to over 40 in multiple specialty areas, and these rates you'll not find really for other similar sized law firms with the experience and the expertise, as well as the retainer that we have. I don't think the retainer has changed. It's still a $40,000 a month retainer.
Yeah, the retainer on here says that it's $4,000 a month to 40, and it goes up to $48,000 for the year for the contract that I was looking at. And then that made me a little confused too, because then when I was looking at the regular expense line for legal services, it says $89,000.
That's because it's a variety of legal expenses. Remember, we have bond counsel, which is also on here, as well as our daily school counsel,
Okay.
as well as special education counsel.
Okay, so that's the total of everything. Okay, and then my final question on that, because I was, when I was reading through, this was something that had popped up in my mind on page 20 of the legal issues school board members may encounter. It talks about the school attorney is typically appointed at the board's annual reorganizational meeting. It is improper for an outgoing school board to bind its successors to a contract with a school attorney. And then it gives the references. So I am understanding that these are like rates. I just want to be clear that we are not binding the upcoming board who's going to vote on this decision come July. So if the board is going to say, well, in drafts, there was a resolution that said that we were making this happen, and I believe, according to what this says, that would be improper. So I just want to make sure that that's the case with the other RFPs. If we should be doing this now, or if we should really be waiting until the organizational meeting to be reviewing these documents and then moving forward at that point.
We've done it each year at this point. It's not improper. I understand that that's your opinion.
So right now, these are just us saying, these are the bids and we're accepting the bids, but that these people are not necessarily performing the work.
No, they will be performing the work. You will appoint them at the organizational meeting as well. And then on top of it, if the board wishes to remove them, you can remove them, so they're not bound. But what happens is, we have to have an attorney, and the attorney or the insurance or the bond counsel or the employee assistance program stays in place, and then if the district wishes to, sever the contract.
Okay, so I don't know for sure about the others, the 6, other than the legal services one. I just know what the NISWA book says, and if this award is somehow like making that commitment, then I feel like that is improper. So that at this point, I would have to vote no on those.
That is okay.
So, Candy, I guess you would mark me down for no on 6.26 through 6.30.
Are you also doing 6.25? That's an RFP as well.
I said through it.
Yeah, but you said 6.26, so I just want to make sure you didn't miss 6.25.
Yep, so I would have to do 6.25. Again, I don't know for sure, but I feel like, well, I read what I read,
No,
so
I understand.
that's what I'm saying.
I asked this at the finance committee about this, but we are gonna still appoint them or whatever we do in July.
Still have to go through that again.
All right, so this is just wrapping up these contracts we need to June. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Call the question? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right, moving along to section 7, personnel items for action. I need a motion 7.02 and 7.03.
So moved.
Second.
Inquiries, discussion, comments? Christine?
I need to abstain from E4 on the HR recommendations because that's my son.
Mary Ann?
On section G, substitutes, I will be voting no on number 6. Non-degree.
I'll do the same, Kenny. Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? I'd like to take a moment and acknowledge Mr. Joseph Caputo, who was 25 years as a plumber, and Jennifer Gilbert, who was 25 years and currently is teaching grade 5. On behalf of the board, I would like to wish them well and thank them for their years of service to the children of our community. I'd also like to welcome Aaron Packard as a resource room teacher to Ridge Road. He received a probationary appointment tonight, and we wish him well and hope he has a great career in the Horsehead School District. And then there were 18 tenure recommendations that we approved tonight, so those names are too numerous to mention, but congratulations to all of those individuals on reaching that milestone in your career. Yep. All right, and then lastly, I'd like to congratulate Mr. Boswick on his move and well wishes for continued success in your new career, and certainly we will miss you in Horseheads.
Thank you, Mark.
You're welcome. All right, miscellaneous items for action. I need a motion on 8.02.
Second?
Curiosities, discussion, comments? Call the question, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Section 9, the board policies. I'll turn it over to Mr. Christmas for the policy committee report.
Thank you. The policy committee met on June 13th, and there are on the agenda, as you can see, 3 policies for second reading approval. We didn't make any additional changes to those at that meeting from the prior version that had been seen in first reading. So that's 6210, 6215, and 6220 on the agenda. We did spend a significant amount of time discussing, as Dr. Douglas alluded to earlier, the new smartphone restriction policy that by law each district is required to put in place in New York State. And so you can see in the agenda the draft policy for a first reading under 1001. But because of the uniqueness of this, I just want to offer a few words of context for what you'll see. The law itself, which is Education Law Section 2803, is very prescriptive in terms of what is required. And so when you look at our policy, sections 1 through 4, in terms of how things are defined, the prohibited use statement, the exceptions that are permitted, all of those are right from the statute. We really have very little ability to modify those. Where the district has some discretion is under the remaining sections. Under the statute, it says each district must provide at least one method for parents to contact the student during the school day, and must provide at least one method for students to store an internet-enabled device during the school day. And so we as a committee talked about the fact that we should try to identify one of each of those, as it's seen in sections 5 and 6. And where we have identified those, you'll see we've also stated that by regulation entered into pursuant to this policy, there may be additional methods that are identified. So, we're trying to meet the minimum standard, but recognize as more information about this potentially comes out, and as we see how it's implemented, there will be some ability to modify and enable another methods. But at a minimum, it states that the contact method would be by calling the office of the school in which the student attends, and at this point, the storage options would be identified as student lockers. Lastly, the statute specifically states that a student can't be suspended solely for violation of the smartphone policy, but what we have stated is that if a student were to repeatedly ignore instructions to follow the policy, that would amount to insubordination, which is a separate offense for which they could be disciplined. So that's under section 7, and that's also the reason for the change to the policy 5300-E Code of Conduct. If you scroll through that, you see other than a couple of miscellaneous name updates, we added language to say that repeated violation of the policy amounting to insubordination is a basis for discipline under the Code of Conduct. So certainly, as Dr. Douglas said, we will potentially need to have another policy committee meeting to finalize this, and any input either now or after the meeting from other board members would certainly be welcome, but I wanted to just make it clear there's a lot of this that is set by law, and only a small amount that we can actually modify. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Christmas. So I need a motion for 9.03 through 9.05.
Second.
Discussion, curiosities? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? All right. Do we have any questions on first readings on either 10.01 or 10.02? Katrina?
Yeah, I think this is a great time to be able to have some discussion on the new policy that we are creating. So I did print off the law so that it was available. And there's one section, section I, that I really like. Non-internet enabled devices such as cellular phones or other communication devices not capable of connecting to the internet or enabling the user to access content on the internet. So to me, that is saying that flip phones are an option. So in creating this, obviously smartphones are not going to be an option, right? Parents still want to be able to contact their child. If there was an emergency and there was a lockdown, they want to say, I want to be able to contact my child. Kids stuck in the gym want to be able to have a cell phone accessible to them for safety purposes. Some people really think that and feel that way. So I feel like it's important to be able to say to a family, yes, you are allowed to give your child a flip phone, and that child is allowed to have that flip phone on them at all times, and they can use it. It's not going to be a distraction. They're not going to access it to look on the internet because they can't. But what this could also turn into, which I think would be a goal and what would be helpful for kids and society as a whole, is if I was a parent and I was weighing the options of whether or not to buy my child a cell phone for the first time because I want to be able to communicate with them. Am I going to go out and buy them a smartphone? Or am I going to buy them a flip phone because that's what the school allows? So I, as a parent, personally would say, I'm going to go out and I'm going to buy my kid a flip phone so that they can still communicate with me. But then long term, how does that child end up communicating with their friends? Maybe not on social media, right? Because that's where we're seeing problems with kids, right? And that might take the whole equation of having those smart devices out. So I think that would be something that would really be worthwhile exploring and getting feedback and input on, right? I'm really thinking like way big picture here. But to me, communication skills, the way that I see communication these days is people text each other in the same room on their phones, right? They might not text each other if it was a flip phone. They might be more inclined to pick the phone back up and have a conversation and have those conversations. And then parents are satisfied because that's an option for them to be able to get hold of their child, right? So I think that's a really great tool. And the other,
Respond to that, just to, yeah, to help since, or was you have more about this policy?
Yeah, just finish, but say about that.
All right, and I just want to offer policy committee feedback, so that's it. Sorry, go ahead. I thought you were switching to something else.
Nope, still on this one.
and so then the other section that I thought was important that I think should be added is number 7, when it's talking about no later than the 1st of September 2026, and then it goes into the study that has to be published. I think that's important to be able to include that in the policy so that we know that that is going to happen. The demographics of children who might be disciplined for violations of it.
You're talking about the state report that will be required to
Right, it's the
provide.
state report, and I do think that that's important to keep into the policy. I think that we really do need to, in section number, like on the policy itself, number 5 and number 6, I think that the plans that we want to have when we get the community feedback that we are supposed to gather in this creation of this policy, I think it's really important to outline those things. And then for the discipline enforcement, to me, it's not clear enough. And then when I go to the code of conduct, there's sections of it that it's like, not necessarily this one incident, but maybe a child has had other incidences where they might have to, where like maybe they had this violation, right? So a parent might see it as, oh, this is a first time phone violation, but they shouldn't be getting suspended for this, even though they had other things prior to. So I feel like we need to go back and revisit the code of conduct and outline and have things a little bit more clear on that. So that was the other thing. And then number 9, as far as
The
regulation.
lady's time has expired. Christmas?
Thank you. Just, I wanted to respond to a couple of things. And I failed to mention that the law does require the district to solicit input specifically from local stakeholders, including but not limited to employee organization representing each bargaining unit within the school building, parents and students in the development of such policy prior to its adoption. We did talk about that at the policy committee meeting. It's really outside of our jurisdiction, but Dr. Douglas explained there were plans to solicit that input, and in fact, I saw the parental survey today. I received it as a parent that was sent out by email. So there are mechanisms in place, as I understand it, for the district to receive that feedback from those groups prior to us adopting the policy. And then with respect to the first part about non-smartphone enabled phones, Katrina, just to be clear, I don't disagree with anything that you said. I'm not, putting aside whether that would change parents' buying habits and whatnot, but the policy only specifically prohibits smartphone-enabled devices. So in the statute, it excludes non-internet-enabled devices from the scope. So everything you said is allowed and would continue to be allowed with this policy in place. There is no prohibition for a non-smartphone-enabled device by virtue of this policy. There could be other district rules that bear on that, but the policy itself doesn't in any way prohibit what it was that you were advocating for.
Yes, if I can add, that's very clear, that we do have some kids that do have them, but K through 8, they're not supposed to have them on it. I mean, that's our current procedure rules.
Now, does that mean the child may have it in their backpack to call the parent after school? Absolutely. The big thing is when they're in school, if they cause a distraction, they're going to be addressed, whether they're internet enabled or not.
Right.
So I think that's the intent. As far as all the regulations, we will be working on that. I do want to comment on the discipline piece, because the discipline piece is separate and distinct in this, is that if it's because of solely the cell phone, we have to go through a procedure. If it becomes a regular distraction or a disruption, it escalates up, and then suspension or other things can be warranted. But there are other activities, say they were cutting class or something, are not going to impact the level of discipline that they have for a cell phone, unless they are constantly in support. That's the only thing. So the two don't necessarily go together. That's why our code of conduct is progressive, and it's responsive to the nature of the incident and to the level, that it doesn't necessarily mean both. I don't think there's a major need of changing the code of conduct at this point, but the regulations are going to be within the same lines, which will prescribe the discipline, and then that will be amended into the code of conduct.
Liz?
I had the wonderful opportunity to actually have a discussion with some of my favorite 5th and 6th graders yesterday about this topic, and I was very surprised. Overwhelmingly, I had 14 of them in the room. All of them said cell phones are a distraction. They're excited about this. They just had questions. They were okay having them off during the day. One kid, I felt really proud about this moment. What if I need it for medical reasons? What if one of my friends needs it as a magnifier? So they were really thoughtful of how smart devices have become part of our lives. But I was very humbled to see that those young leaders are absolutely in favor of this. They see that it's a distraction, and I'm excited to see what that feedback looks like overall.
Julie?
Thank you. Liza is excited because I also have someone in 6th grade at the intermediate school, and there's questions, like you said, of just how it's going to work. So I just want to make sure for storage devices, when we're speaking, we have to be able to provide them an option, which is what the locker is going to be. Will backpacks be allowed for storage?
We have, in a policy, we want to be as general as possible to not limit you. We have, in certain buildings, there's lockers. Officially, pre-K through 6th, there's cubbies, I think. And a cubby could be that, but again, pre-K through 6th, they're not going to have their cell phones with them. If they are supposed to call parents, call the office, and regular. I think that's been the case forever. And then 7th and 8th, it's supposed to be that way, even though they know that they come in. And guess where the kids mostly keep them? Their backpack. There's something to be said about yonder couches. They are costly. But they serve a purpose. I've always believed the place where we're going to have the biggest issue is most likely the high school, because we already have a K through 8 you weren't supposed to have, and we haven't really had a lot of problems with it. But we'll have to re-educate and make sure they understand about that too. At the high school, there is enough lockers for everybody, so we meet the requirement. But most likely, we're going to have to do a regulation that says a locker, this. The biggest thing is they are off and they are not seen. And if they're on, they go off, they're seen, it's a violation, period. And then what do you do with each violation? I think you're probably going to have like 5 steps. That's from looking at different schools, discussions, even with NISBA, they did a wonderful podcast from my former school district. They do have that, and they really haven't seen the recurring issues after about the first 2 to 3 months, once the students and the parents understand that A, it's being enforced, B, you aren't just, oh, you're okay, you're not, and consistency across the school. And by doing that and staying with it, the students start to comply and understand because they start seeing the benefits of what's happening. I will tell you, I've talked to high school kids. First time I said it, I had my phone right in my hand. The first thing they said was, "What do you think?"
What about the staff?
Nope. It was, "My grades will probably go up." Their second question was, "What about you and the staff?" And this is not for the staff. However, we are in a profession where we lead by example. And I think we are going to have discussions that when we're bell to bell and in the classroom, and we're student facing, we are here for education. When we are not student facing and private, that's probably professional. And I'm hoping that everybody will join me along with it. As I told the kids, believe me, I have no problem being able to say, "Terry, where's Terry?" Oh, she went to get something to eat for us. "Terry, here's my phone. They'll call you if they need me. I'm going over to Big Flats or I'm going over here." Because honestly, I'm a big violator of it because I'm pretty much attached and I get back to people as soon as I can. But we have to set that example. And I think the kids will respect that, whether it's the middle school, intermediate, or high school. I don't think it's really much of an issue at the elementary school. But it's something we're going to have growing pains and we're going to have to go through probably the first semester.
Okay, so just to be clear, backpacks are gonna be allowed?
I have to write the regulation, but most likely something like that would be considered.
Because you know no one at the high school uses lockers, right?
But it's the one place that they're locked.
So let's set them. Yep.
No, I understand.
Not to contradict anything Dr. Douglas said, but just again, as the policy committee chair, to be crystal clear, as currently written, it states the permitted method is lockers. So the policy as currently written would not permit backpacks. We talked about that at the policy committee meeting, and I think it'll be interesting to see the feedback. One point of view was that having them in backpacks just increases the temptation for students to take them out and use them during the day, which therefore increases the burden on administrators and teachers to be enforcing, which is a distraction from teaching, right? So, frankly, myself, I was in favor of just stating lockers. But as I said, the policy allows, by regulation, additional storage mechanisms to be identified. So, as Dr. Douglas was explaining, as it gets put into place, as we see how effective or whether lockers doesn't work, for example, additional methods could be identified. And then I think if at some point, if the board had an issue with that, obviously we could come back and revisit the policy. But as written, it does not specifically include backpacks. I just want to make sure that's clear.
Christine?
Just one comment and one question. So comments, even thinking about the flip phone or having a non-internet device, and if the purpose is so parents can get in touch with their kids during a lockdown or something like that, I actually think that provides a safety concern in and of itself. In a lockdown, if there was an active shooter and all the kids are congregated in a classroom in the corner, and all of a sudden all these flip phones start vibrating or kids start talking, it could alert an intruder as to where the kids are. So that's just me being kind of ultra sensitive about that. But and again, just a comment. But my question is, if the law is asking us to get feedback from parents, what happens? And I don't know what questions were asked because I don't have a kid in the district. But what happens if all the feedback we get is we don't agree with this and we want our kids to have their smartphones, right? And then all of a sudden, now we're asking for feedback, but now we can't take any of that feedback into consideration because it goes against what the policy or what the law is telling us that we need to do. So to me, that's counterproductive.
This is the conundrum called the state legislature making a law and not working with the state education department on the implementation. So we have a law, we are required to follow it. And as I said at the last meeting, state ed said they are not going to get involved and they are not going to provide any guidance. If you have a question, contact the state legislature. Numerous superintendents contacted the state legislature as well as the Secretary of Education under the governor, and guess what? No return calls. So we are left to do the best that we can. I think, you know, you do have to talk to kids, and we are going to get their consultation, but their consultation, like you said, well, we don't like it, well, that doesn't matter. The law is the law. Now, if they come back and said, hey, have you thought about that? That's what we're looking for. That's what's going to help shape some regulation possibly. But just because somebody puts it doesn't mean that that's going to find its way into regulation. The big thing is, it's kind of hard to ask the people, hey, we're going to take your cell phones, give us your thoughts on it. I know what thoughts I'm going to get. But what happens, I think the good intent is there. We're trying to do it. Everything went out today. And basically what it did is we took the first components and asked the question, give us some of your thoughts or suggestions. Then we took, I think, like that was 1 through 4, and then we took 5 and said some of your suggestions, 6. So it's very open-ended. And then we got down to 7 and 8, what are your thoughts, and overall, what are your thoughts? So people can sort of tell, like, and it even says, this is the law. We have to do this, but tell us what your thoughts are. That's how we're going to try to sort of ferret out what they're thinking. And then no matter what, even if we do it with students and say the policy is exactly what it is right now, we're going to have to adapt and morph with it, because when the kids come back, especially at the high school, the first week is going to be nothing about class meetings, talking with the kids, setting the expectations, and helping them understand, we don't want you to get yourself in a certain way. This is how you're not going to do it, and you need to understand it will be enforced. Once we get through this, then we need to do dress code. Yeah, I know, I thought that would be good, but it's the same thing. I mean, cell phones, I think the kids understand a little bit more than dress code, so to speak. So I'm hoping that between the staff, the administration, the students, the district administration, talking to kids and saying, this is why, this is what it's going to be, please adhere to this. I've always said if you teach a child who wants adult respect, the adult responsibility, and they live up to it, they'll surprise you and do what you ask them to do. But there will be a few, and then you've got to deal with it.
Aaron?
So this is coming, right? It's not an option. And I know I've stated this before, but there are local neighboring schools who have taken on this task already prior to the state law. Have we consulted with them? Good, bad, ugly from them, right? Suggestions for how to overcome non-adherence and so on and so forth. I think it's important that we hear that information so that we can have an easier time moving into this. The other part of it that is critically important is training for our staff members. They are going to come up, they are going to be the front line of this. I mean, let's just be honest. The teachers, the staff members will be the first ones that are going to be dealing with these issues. It has to be really clear cut. We don't want to add any more to the load of what these folks already have to deal with. It has to be very, very clear cut, a prescription, if you will. This happens, you do this. This happens, you do this. And the adherence we have no other option than for adherence to be 100%. That's the only way that this works. It really is. Speaking personally, I've been through this before as an administrator. We've implemented a cell phone situation. And if you have some teachers or some staff members that don't adhere, you're done. It's going to take you 2, 3, 4, 5 times as long to reach the expected goal. So that staff has to be in lockstep with this, with each other. And I think the concept is, and I'm speaking freely here, you may have your personal opinion, X, Y, and Z. But when you walk in these doors, you are an employee of the state. And as an employee of the state, the expectation is that you do X, Y, and Z. So that has to be super, super crystal clear. And then the support from administration has to come up behind them to say, this is your role, now this is our role. And that has to be crystal clear. And the parents have to understand too, right? If your student violates this, consequence 1, consequence 2, and so on and so forth, but it has to be crystal clear. So that's just my comments. If we want to see this be as successful as possible, as soon as possible, we need to learn from the mistakes and the triumphs of others who have done it and be super clear with expectations all around.
Sue?
Am I allowed to talk about code of conduct? Okay. I just have one thing under the coordinators. You have Center Street Patty, but I think Center Street shouldn't be there anymore. You should have Gardner Road Patty, correct? In this policy now?
Yeah, we are going to have to update certain things between the first and second.
Okay, well, I just thought, so this is the first reading, so
Yeah.
that was the only thing I saw. And yes, I think the cell phone thing will be an issue, but it's the best thing that will happen, that they can't have their cell phones out every day, because they are a big distraction.
Katrina?
So I just wanted to go back. I thank you, Dan, for clarifying. I understand that, this, what you guys have written in the policy is not prohibiting that paragraph, but I want to go back as to why I feel like that paragraph is so important. I ask myself, why is this happening, right? Because it's a distraction. But when I had read The Anxious Generation and it was talking about the use of cell phones and screen time, they talk a lot about dopamine, right? And the effects dopamine has on the body, right? Why do people eventually, why is heroin so addicting? It's a dopamine chemical, right? It's the same thing. It's a distraction. So having that phone, even in your locker, locked up, which I know is going to be the storage device, kids are going to be jonesing for their fix of their internet device, right? That's why I think it's so important to give the parents the power to say an option for you is to have a cell phone. We're not taking away the cell phone. We're taking away that social media, that fix. So I think that if we could promote that option, because it's all about being able to have the communication, right? If we can promote that and push that as an option, I think that we can if we can try to get rid of as many smartphones as possible, then ultimately we're doing our students long-term more favors, because they're not going to be trying to sneak out to their lockers on a bathroom break to go get to their phones. And then in the code of conduct, it reads students should be, reporting violations. So Susie saw Johnny in the hall and he was in his locker grabbing his cell phone. So they told somebody, there's just a lot of problems. So that's why I feel like that piece is giving an opportunity for people to say, okay, here's another option, and with this option, your kid will never be in trouble. So let's go with this option. It's like it's a positive thing. And then it's not like, okay, we're taking this away from you, you can never have it again, because that I don't really ever feel like is effective with making people stop being distracted and wanting to go and get it. Do you know what I mean? So that's why I'm a big advocate for that to be included as an option, because I'm hopeful that maybe 10, 20, however many parents get on that bandwagon, it might be beneficial long term, and then maybe more people get on that bandwagon. And then we're really helping the overall wellness of that person and that dopamine connection long term, because that's the stuff that's leading to the anxiety, right? And the depression and all the other things that we want to try to help combat. So that's my thought.
Julie?
I know it's Julie's turn. I'm going to say something real quick to Katrina. I knew I saw this someplace, but research has shown that it takes 60 days to rewire the neurons in your brain to break the dopamine habit of the cell phone. Saw it in research, just looked it up again, but I just felt that was fair to share 60 days to rewire. Interesting.
2 good months.
Julie?
So, I'm gonna say it, and I know we're like, nope, we're not doing it. The yonder pouches or something similar, right? So we just talked about spending $30,000 for the assistance to have people at the schools for our new start times. But if we were to purchase yonder pouches, that's pretty much what it would probably be, or close to that.
No, it's gonna be much more. You gotta buy the magnets, you gotta install them, you gotta hook power up to them, you gotta get the yonder pouches, and then you also have to be able to have enough so that you can get 1,100 kids into a building in under 15 minutes. So, I mean, I'm not trying to say, I'm just telling you, these are what other schools have told me that their problems have been.
So Governor Hochul has put out a grant.
Yep.
I understand it's not tons,
No.
but have we applied for the grant at all to see
You
if we
can't
can
apply for it yet, they haven't provided the means.
Okay.
Now, I
Are we
did,
are we ready
we
to
will
apply
have
for it so
somebody,
that
yeah.
if that money becomes available? Because that could be something, if there's money available from the state, we should be applying for it.
Well, yeah, we always go, that's why we brought in our own grant person, so I have every confidence that once they do something, Stacy will be right on top of it. But I just did a simple calculation of the 13.5 million by 710 districts, about $18 to $20,000 per school.
So, Aaron had mentioned, working with our neighboring districts that have been doing this for some time, and I believe one of them does use the yonder pouches.
Elmira does.
Yes.
Yep,
And then the other one has a bell-to-bell house.
they have a bell-to-bell, they primarily use their backpacks, and I do not believe that school is having success at all.
Okay.
Because of, I think, some of the things that Aaron said about some people enforce it, some people don't, some administrators do, some don't.
Have we, maybe proactively looked out to Yonder or any of the competitors with Yonder to get a quote, just to kind of be able to bring back to us to see what that cost would be to put that in place?
They tell us point blank, your initial quote is just for the pouches is $30 per pouch.
Yeah,
Yeah, so we take 1,100 times 30,
right.
right, so
how
that's
it goes.
31.
Right.
Right, and then each of the magnets, depending on each magnet, you're going to have to hire a contractor to come in, electrician,
We
rate
have a lot of
rolls.
those at the school right now, so
What?
we have a lot of those contractors at the school right now, just saying.
Oh, I know.
Just saying.
I know they love change
I'm
orders.
not thinking about that, I'm just saying,
No, I
like, we
understand.
have access
Yes.
to those types of people. I'm just curious if we look to get a quote of what it would be, because it might be beneficial for us to say, hey, if the locker policy is not working, we may need to pivot.
Mhm.
And to be prepared to pivot, we might need that quote and understand exactly what that expense is going to be.
I just need, I mean,
So-
if you're getting a quote, you want to know if you're going to be heading down that way, because you're not just quoting just to get a quote.
Well, we could
Yeah.
quote in just to get a quote. I mean, we have to understand exactly what that quote looks like. If we're not heading, I mean, if we get the quote and something we're like, absolutely not, we don't want to spend that.
I think you're looking at $50,000 to $100,000 just for the high school.
Okay, so that's my first
Sure.
thought is the Yonders. My second, real quick, is when we talk about the staff again, and making sure, and Aaron, again, hit on making sure that they're really leading by example. There is, a section in our policies, for staff. Is there anything that we can put in there that is kind of when they come up, that they kind of, could we write a policy that when
I
they're
think the board could try to, I think. they could-
non-student facing?
I think the board can always try to, but I think the board will automatically get a work action.
Thank you.
Yeah, just because what happens is, the work action could always be if you try to force something and say this is what you're gonna do, would be the fact that you're affecting their, I guess they had it to right now. Can you think of it? Working conditions. They have a right to bargain all impactful working conditions. They'll sit there and say, I mean, I don't have to tell them, they'll sit there and say, telephone's our emergency line in case our phone goes down. If we're outside, we don't have a line, my work condition. If something happens to that kid, I'm in trouble, that's my work condition. That's always the difficulty.
what you do try to do is have those conversations with the leaderships. It's like, I got Jess back there, sorry not putting you on the spot, but I would have no problem talking to her staff, and say, how can we best resolve this? I think that tends to work better. But then you also have to have that same conversation. How can we make sure everybody understands this is not an option, right? And a lot of times you have those conversations, everybody does get on the same page. But when you just sit there, hey, Jess, this is what's going to happen, you deal with it. She'll sit there and say, okay, but then the LRS will come in and say, you know, you can't do it. So that's the part a lot of people don't understand about, like, our workforce and our work environment from business, that we have a different rule that has to apply. Sometimes I love the business rule, and sometimes I think the business rule would like some of ours at certain times. But it's trying to find the balance. I always find at least I can say, over the past 10 to 11 years, our labor relations with every single unit has been successful, and we've worked through things. And it's by constantly talking, even when we don't agree, but we come to an agreement eventually in the best interest of both sides, as well as the students and the outcome. That's the best I can say.
Christine?
I am not in favor of adding something to the policy that tells parents all of their different options, right? Because I just, this policy is about the elimination of internet-enabled devices. So then to put something in the policy that says, however, you can get a flip phone or whatever, that's not for us to tell parents what they can and can't do in that respect. So I'm not in favor of putting that into the policy.
Tried your two times. Others?
All right, so I think the policy committee has feedback. I mean, I talked in policy, so I don't know that there's any need to further the discussion.
I took good notes.
Okay.
All right, so now we move to section 11, and under the president's report, I'll start with this. No board member can leave until they see Terry, because Terry has a document for you to sign, so you don't want to get on Terry's bad side, so make sure you see Terry. And then tonight, we also have 3 individuals that are leaving the board. One is the student representative, and we all know Mia, and if you want to see Mia in more plays, you can go to Fredonia, where she is attending next year, and she is going to continue following her acting passion. And we have a gift card for Mia and a regular card, and I'll have to get that to her at graduation or in some other fashion, since she's not here tonight. Secondly, Liz is leaving us tonight, and she has been a strong advocate for students with disabilities in the district, and she's been outspoken on that passion that she has, and she has served on many ad hoc committees on the board, and we certainly will miss her. And maybe if I say it, some people might miss Yale more, but I don't know. But with Liz, we have being donated in Liz's name to the grade school library, Just Ask, subtitle, Be Different, Be Brave, Be You. So there will be on the inside cover, it's not there now, that it's donated in your name as service to the board. And I'm gonna go out of order. And if you have anything you'd like to say, I think we'll entertain that now. And if you don't, that's fine.
I'm good right now.
All right. And then lastly, Mary Ann is also leaving us. And she has spent a career as an elementary teacher in the Corning Painted Post School District. She has served 2 separate terms on the school board and is currently training and mentoring the next generation of teachers as a student teacher advisor consultant at SUNY Corp. And Mary Ann chose James as the book, and maybe you can speak to what it's about, but again, it's won multiple awards, it's won a Pulitzer Prize, so these 2 books will also be donated in Mary Ann's name.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And I don't know if you want to speak now or wait to board member comments, which is the next section of the.
I can speak now. Sister Mary Angelita said so often I always speak. Oh, thank you. I'll tell you a little bit about James. It is a take on Mark Twain's Huckleberry Finn. And I just feel children that are in this area should know a little bit about this gentleman who spent a lot of time in Elmira. But anyway, so with the way it is narrated, James is Jin, but James is literate. James can read and James can write, as Jin could not as a slave. And so when James narrates, he narrates with very good language. When it is necessary for him to take the role of a slave, then you hear the dialogue. It is extremely well written, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it would be a good book for our high schoolers to read. And that's why I chose James. So I do have some words here. I hope I can get through them without getting weepy. I've practiced. So, please bear with me. I'll try my best. So, good evening, everyone. As I stand, I guess I should say sit. As I stand before you tonight, I am filled with gratitude. Gratitude for the trust the Horseheads community placed in me during the 11 years I have been on the Board of Ed, and the unwavering support from so many within the Horseheads Central School District, who I see sitting there. Thank you for allowing me the incredible honor of serving you. When I first joined the Board of Education, it was with one simple goal: to give back. Horseheads is where my 3 children grew up. They learned, they laughed, and they thrived. Today, they are not only pursuing successful careers, but they are also, which means a lot to me, compassionate, contributing members of their communities. That is a true testament to the power of this district. Reflecting on this journey, I am reminded of a famous line from Charles Dickens. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Indeed, we have faced profound challenges, none greater than the pandemic. But under the steady leadership of Dr. Douglas and the board, we made decisions guided by care, resilience, and responsibility. We adapted. We protected. We delivered education in the best way possible while prioritizing the health and safety of our students, staff, and families. And yet, it saddens me to see how some efforts are now being obstructed, not by reasoned disagreement, but by resistance, rooted in personal agendas. One of the first lessons that I learned as a board member was this: support the decisions of the board even when it doesn't align with your own views. Our mission must always focus on the betterment of all children, not the loudest voices, not individual interests. Today, I must speak honestly. There is a troubling undercurrent of retribution surfacing in our district. It threatens to divide rather than unite, and sends a dangerous message to our students that bitterness can override respect, and that personal grudges belong in civic life. That is not the legacy that we want to leave with them. But let me be clear, the best of my time on the board far outweighs the worst. Over the past decade, I've witnessed extraordinary progress. Our schools have been modernized and now shine as beacons of pride in our community. Innovative programs have taken root, offering richer academic and emotional support to our students. And more children than ever are engaging in the arts, athletics, and extracurricular activities thanks to expanded opportunities. The impact of these changes is visible in every classroom and in the bright futures we are helping to shape. I leave this role with a full heart, immense pride. Let me get through this. Not only in what we have accomplished, but in who we are as a district. Forsets has always stood for excellence, equity, and empathy. And I believe it always will. Thank you.
Does any other board members have a comment tonight? Christine?
So a couple things. First of all, I just like to say to both Liz and Mary Ann, it's been a pleasure working with the two of you. I think as a board, it's very important that we have diversity of thought, diversity of backgrounds, diversity of experiences, and I think with the two of you, you've had that. And Liz, I know it was only a short time, but just a lot of your passion just about everything that we've talked about and everything that we've worked on. So it's been a pleasure getting to know you and working with you. And Mary Ann, your experience, right? I always appreciate you as a retired teacher, but you are still very active because you're training other teachers and you're keeping up with everything that is current, and your ability to see the good in everything that we do is really valuable, and so it's definitely missed. Outside of that, I just want to let everybody know, I just want to give a shout out to Ridge Road, to the third grade staff at Ridge Road, and I know many of you know, so for the past 12 years, my family has gone into the third grade classes at Ridge Road to talk about the Book of Wonder and to talk about choosing kind and what it's like for somebody who is born where they have a facial difference or they look different. And my family's been doing this all around the tri-state area, but we started it in Horseheads because of the third grade in Ridge Road, and particularly a shout out to Mrs. Kelly Murray and Mrs. Kelly Wolf, because they've been the two third grade teachers that have been there along the entire 12 years of doing it, and then also having Mrs. Emily Calzaretta involved as well. But it's amazing what these teachers have done with really teaching the students how to choose kind and how to really look for the best in each other. And the activities that they do as part of this program is really neat. And so I just want to thank them for keeping this going for as many years as we have. Even during COVID, we did it virtually. And it's just really been very, very special, and just want to thank the staff there, and just it's the highlight of my year getting to go in and just seeing all these third graders and how they treat each other, and just how excited they get to be able to tell each other what makes them special. And it's really a neat experience. So thank you.
Julie?
Okay, I want to second what Christine said to both Mary and Liz. Thank you so much. It's only been a year for me, but it has been a pleasure working with both of you. So thank you for your service and giving back to our community. I want to let Mr. Mike Crossworth know that we wish you in the community and wish you the best of luck. They are certainly getting a good one, and so we will miss your entire family in the community. So good luck to you. Congratulations to all the seniors. There was a graduation at BOCES this past weekend, or past Monday, and some of those seniors got their first diploma. Very exciting for them. Lots of celebrations. It's kind of fun to see this time of year, Senior Day, and all the fun things that they do. And I just really want to wish all of them, regardless of what they're doing next year, the best of luck. And then I really want to give big congratulations to the softball team, the boys baseball team, of course, and the track team members who did go to states. I think there was a new school record set there as well, so that's really exciting for our relay team. Just getting to states is pretty much a huge accomplishment, and I think they all need to be celebrated. But I really want to thank Mr. Sachs frequently talks about in our athletic committee meetings, Raider Nation, and how do we make Raider Nation really felt. And I can tell you that as a parent of someone who's on the baseball team, Raider Nation was there, and they showed up on Friday for regionals, or semifinals, excuse me, and they were definitely regionals as well, the weekend before. But at Binghamton University, the Raider Nation, and I say that meaning everyone in the community that came to support, whether you were near or far, and sending well wishes, it was truly felt, and it was pretty incredible to see so many people supporting the athletes. For those of you that were there, we can attest to the Binghamton University baseball stadium is amazing, and it was packed with blue and white, and it was so awesome to see. We talk about so many things that we deal with here and decisions that we make, but that really just kind of puts it all together. This is an amazing community, and so many people are supporting that Raider Nation. So I just want to make sure that I acknowledge all of them and say thank you. Thanks.
Dan?
I would be remiss if I didn't also offer my, heartfelt thanks to Liz and to Mary Ann for your service on the board. I've learned so much from both of you. The experiences that you have are diverse from mine, and the passions are diverse from mine, and I think that's what makes us work well together as a group. And so thank you very much, both of you, for everything that you've done for us collectively, and I value the friendship that I've developed with both of you. And then secondly, I don't think we talked about this earlier, but I thank you to the community for coming out to vote, and to the district who worked hard in a short timeline to put a new budget together and to communicate about that effectively and to encourage people to vote. And so I think that that was a successful work under difficult circumstances, and I'm thankful for that to the community. That's all.
Marianne?
I need to thank Liz, because it's been so great to work with her. And we teachers don't get the bonus checks and all the, car, so forth and so on kinds of things. The best gifts that teachers get are seeing their students be successful. Thank you for my gift.
Sue?
have a few things. First of all, I would like to mention a former board member, Al Dietrich, who served on the board with me for 12 years. I don't know if I was there the whole 12 years. But I read that he passed away in May. And I was sad to see that. He had so much knowledge, and I really enjoyed working with him when he was on the board. He was just a wonderful person. He was in Oregon with where his daughters were. His wife, Ann, was a teacher at Center Street years ago, and she passed away with cancer in 1995. But they were just, they really served the community when they lived here. And Al was a wonderful, wonderful person. Warren talked about Mia, and Mia is actually going to be in a play this summer for our little theater, and the play will be August 15th to 17th. So if you want to catch her in one final performance before she goes to Fredonia, she will be here. I would like to congratulate the sports team, the softball, the baseball, the track. I couldn't be there because I had another commitment on Saturday, but I had one person at the baseball field text to me what was going on. I had another person at the softball field tell me what was going on. It was exciting. It was exciting for sure, and it's just awesome because I know a lot of those kids on both of those teams. I also would like to congratulate the seniors. I'm excited for graduation next week. I would like to thank Mr. Boswick for his time that he's given this community, and good luck in your next adventure. We'll keep our eye on what's going on there. And thank you to Mary Ann and Liz for your time and your service on the school board. It's sometimes a thankless job, and thank you for all you've done. Let me see if I get everything. Yeah, I think I did. My hand scratches way back. We had a great Center Street Carnival last week until it rained about 7:15. But it was before that, approximately 290 students came through, and the kids had a blast. It wasn't so much fun cleaning up in the pouring rain, but it was. I'm still drying things up, but it was a great turnout, and it was a lot of fun.
Trina?
I just want to echo all the congratulations to the sports team. I mean, what a way for them to go out, right? I mean, it's storybook ending. That's wonderful. And the girls softball team and track and field, everything, it's excellent. It's really, really great. And I echo Dan's thoughts on the people who passed the budget. Thank you for continuing to support us. Congratulations, Mr. Boswick, on your next move. Very exciting. And I also wanted to make sure that it says special thank you to Mike Coughlin the day of our carnival. There were some muddy areas, holes around Center Street where the parents were going to walk, and I emailed him suggesting that I could bring over some wood chips because my dad had just got half of the driveway full. He wrangled a deal with somebody down the street when they were chopping down a tree. I thought, well, I could fill some of these holes because we were worried about people. And you know, I emailed to ask, and he immediately sent a team over, and they brought over dirt, they leveled it out, they made everything look so great, and it was really, really awesome, and I was so appreciative that they did that. And then it poured, and then people walked on the mud, and then I was like, oh my goodness, because really it was a 4% chance. But I really have to recognize Patty, because her and her team made it so that the kids at Center Street were able to utilize the bouncy houses during the day. And it was a first-time attempt that they tried to do, and the way that they had everything coordinated, the kids moving from station to station, we had a total of 5 different bouncy houses that the PTO provided. And I was there during the day setting up for the smiles on the kids' faces and their comments saying, this is the best day of my life. And thank you so much because, you know, I couldn't come. My parents said, you know, we live too far away. And then just to see, and then we got them all ices too afterwards. It was just really, really great. It was wonderful. And then I also have to say, Mr. R, I'm not going to attempt to say his whole name. He's a teacher assistant. Him and Mr. Packard that we had just approved were so gracious and volunteered themselves to be the dunk tank people which is a really hard thing to do, but they did it. I mean, the kids loved it. And going into that, it's hard work. Like, you're signing up for a job with that, and that's, you know. So I just wanted to say thank you to everybody for that. And I want to thank Mary Ann and Liz. You know, we may not always agree, but volunteering and signing up for this is a huge commitment, and it takes a lot of heart. And thank you for doing it, because not a lot of people do step up to serve. And it's hard to do it, and you stepped up and you did it. So thank you for your time and your effort. And then I did just want to make one comment, because I wanted to talk about this with the under pouches. I would be interested in seeing what that looks like quote-wise, because it may take away that itch to have to go get it out of the locker, and it may satisfy the, oh, I have my phone on me, so at least they feel better about it. So I would be interested to see what that cost does look like, and to see if it is an option or if it is not. And that was all of my comments.
I forgot one thing. Just about the baseball team, it is a great way he went out. In 1999, there was a parent on the team who won the, and that's the year our oldest son graduated from high school. So when I was telling Christopher about it on Father's Day when we were talking to him, he said, "No, I remember that. He didn't play baseball. He was on tennis, but he said, I remember that championship." And I said, yes, and now his son was on this team that won. So I thought that was pretty amazing for that family to, you know, father, now the son, and they both were on championship games, however. So congratulations for sure to the baseball team.
All right, so I'd like to end by thanking the community for coming out and supporting the budget, and most importantly, supporting the children of our community. Certainly, we appreciate your support, and the children appreciate your support. So, I need a motion to go into recess for 15 minutes and then enter into executive session for individual personnel matter and negotiations.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions?
Take about 5-7 minutes for a personal break.
All right, we are returning from executive session at 12:45 where we conducted negotiations. There will be a special board meeting on Friday evening, 5:30. We will return right here to the middle school.
High school.
Oh,
High school cafeteria.
oh, high school cafeteria, that's it. All right, sorry. We go to the high school cafeteria to vote on our contract negotiations, and there will be an agenda put out. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Aye.
Opposed? Have a good evening, everyone.